Coming up on our Finding Better podcast is one you do not want to miss. Nate Turner is joining me again. He was with me late last year, and we're going to talk about life. We're going to talk about setting great goals. We're going to talk about backwards design of your life. We're going to talk about his background of having grown up in poverty in Gary, Indiana, which at the time was the murder capital of the world, and how he made his way out of that and got his law degree, got his master's degree, raised his son to qualify for Harvard University by the time he was 14 years old. We're going to talk about goal setting. We're going to talk about living with joy on purpose. And we're going to talk about things that you can take away now, today, and apply to your life. It's amazing. You're going to love this. Please share it. Here we go. Hello, 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 and welcome back to our Finding Better podcast. My name is John Suzuki, and I am your host. And this is where Finding Better is where you come and we share real life experiences. We don't share opinions, we don't share academics, we don't even share theories. It's all about experiences that my guests and I have lived. And so the idea is that sometimes the best, a really great path to success is to copy it, right? And so we share our experiences so that you might decide to apply some of those lessons and learnings to your own life. Um, this episode is our first episode with a guest speaker in 2025. So happy New Year. And my guest today, you saw him recently, is Nate Turner. Nate, welcome back to Finding Better.
Thank you. And the pressure is on. Either I'm going to make the year start off bad or make the year
Oh
start
my
off good.
gosh. I am so honored to have you back. You know, the last time we talked, I was so impressed and I was so inspired by your story that I really wanted to have you back as my first guest in 2025. Let me just give a little bit of an intro on what we're going to talk about and why this is such an amazing episode. So we're going to talk about three things, folks. And remember, we're talking about ways for you perhaps to make your life better, right? In 2025. The first thing we're going to talk about is getting ahead and achieving the success you want, even when the odds are all stacked against you. And Nate's going to talk about his story of having grown up in poverty and what he did to get out of it and to create the amazing life that he has created for himself and his family, which leads to the second thing we're going to talk about is achieving goals. Okay. I talked with you in the last episode of giving yourself the gift of goals for 2025. So we're going to talk about what Nate calls a backward design process, which is really cool, that helps you and your families really set and achieve really ambitious goals. As you heard last time, I call them big, hairy, audacious goals or big or BHAGs, right? And actionable goals to align your personal daily decisions with long-term success, whether that success be in education or be it your career or be it in personal growth. He's got this thing called the backward design process that enabled him, and you're going to hear his story in just a minute, to get a law degree, a master's degree, and it enabled him to raise a multilingual son who at 16 left the country to become a professional soccer player at 16 years old, right? And let me just read this to get this right. And he earned admission to 27 of the best universities in the United States and fully funded scholarships, received fully funded scholarships to seven of America's top graduate engineering programs. And he earned his Ph.D. in electrical and computer engineering from Carnegie Mellon University. That is an incredible, anybody who accomplishes that at that university, it's just amazing. It's just amazing. So, and he's going to talk about how you can set your goals and move forward down the road. And finally, we're going to talk about what Nate calls living with joy on purpose. Okay. And and what he means by that, and he's going to talk about this, is by intentionally fulfilling your personal aspirations and making the world a better place. I mean, how cool is that? That's what this podcast is all about, right? And it's all about making the planet better by lifting others, right? It is so cool. It becomes such a win-win because you're winning for yourself and you're leaving a legacy behind, right? So, Nate, I have just spoken way too much, but I wanted everybody to understand your background and because it is so impressive. So, with that, let's start with the first one. Let's start up with getting ahead. And if you can share your story of where you grew up. I know your story. I want everybody else
Sure,
to know their story
sure.
because a lot of people think to themselves, "Well, gosh, I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth, so therefore, right? You certainly weren't either,
Right.
and you've lived such an accomplished life. Please share."
Sure. I would say, John, not only was I not born with a silver spoon, I wasn't born with a plastic spork, that.
or a wooden spork.
Right. I had none of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm originally from Gary, Indiana. That's where I was born, 1965, to Tommy and Gladys Turner, two high school graduates. One, my father worked a bunch of odd jobs, sometimes in the mill. I think he worked a short period of time for UPS. He did some work in sales, but my parents were mostly. My mother worked as a white collar worker, as an accounts receivable clerk. So my parents, they struggled financially the greater portion of my life. In fact, I left college, my what would have been my last semester my senior year, to go home because my parents had financial difficulties, and I took a job so I could help my parents keep the house. So yeah, no, I didn't grow up with any wealth or privilege. I grew up in Gary, Indiana. So for as much as people know about Gary, Indiana today, it's not the same place. But at one point in time, Gary, Indiana was considered the murder and crime capital of the United States of America. In fact, the world. It was murder capital of the world at one point.
And that's where
Uh,
that's where you grew up
that's where I grew up.
at
Right.
at that time.
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
CDC
Wow.
says that there are these things that keep any child from having a successful life or make your adulthood very difficult. And those are called adverse childhood experiences. There are 10 of them, anything from living in a home with someone who's abusive to someone who's being abused to someone who abuses alcohol or drugs to someone who's been incarcerated, et cetera. There are 10 of those things. And I am a child who, during my childhood, suffered through 8 of those 10.
8 of the 10.
Yes, sir.
Wow. Wow. What was your relationship with your parents like?
Uh, a mixed bag. So as I've gotten older, I understand my father better than I understood my father when I was younger and when he was alive. My father passed in on May 13th of 2018. He and I had not had a conversation. Really, we had not spoken for really over 20 years. The last time I saw my father was in November of 2017, and that was a very odd, very awkward exchange. He didn't initially want to let me in the house. He acted as if he didn't know who I was. It was
So
it was
2017 was the first time in 20 years that
I
you
had
had
seen,
spoken with him.
absolutely. Yep. I have a friend of
Whoa.
mine, his mother had cancer, and so she was a part of my village. One of the supportive people would encourage me. And so I went home to see her, and then I thought, you know what? I should probably go see my father. Tomorrow's not promised. I don't know. Maybe today will be the day that the light bulb will click and we'll figure out how to get along. And I rung the doorbell, and my friend Scott was with me, and my father comes to the door, and he opens the door and he says this: "How can I help you?"
Wow.
As if I was
Wow.
some stranger to him. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I decided at that point, I was like, I had enough, because
So it sounds it
whenever
sounds yeah, I'm sorry, go
I
ahead.
was just saying, I decided I had enough, because the reason that I hadn't spent much time with him in 20 years is because whenever I was with him, it would take something away from the energy I had to devote to my own
Uh,
family. So it's like, I'm just not going to do that.
yeah, 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 yeah. No, I understand that. I understand that completely. Yeah, and so you grew up and here you are growing up in the world's murder capital in poverty. Um, and one of the things that I really like to share with folks are success stories, right? From I call it the Phoenix. rising from the ashes. Um, and you kind of did. You kind of did. The ashes of Gary, Indiana, right? And you built a life for yourself. As a young person, what did you do? For young people out there who are listening right now, who are trying to get ahead, who just seem to be trying everything and nothing seems to work. What worked for you?
So I'll say this: like we don't do anything in a vacuum. So while I'm the guy on the show talking to you, I know, John, that I'm an amalgamation of all of the people, places, and things that I've ever been, and all of the generous people who decided to love me for no reason, even if I didn't
Absolutely.
find it in my home. So I want to say that because I don't ever want someone to think, hey, this guy says he did it by himself. No, I didn't
Yeah,
pull
yeah, yeah,
myself
yeah,
up
yeah.
by my own bootstraps.
Totally,
Right.
totally.
I
Thank you.
neither had any
You're
boots and I didn't have any straps. So somebody else. So
Yeah, so you didn't have bootstraps.
I didn't have any of that, right? But but here's what I did have. I did have people who told me that it was okay for me to dream, that it was okay for me to expect more out of my life. It was okay for me to want more for my life. And when those people gift you with that, then what they also are gifting you is this idea that they believe that you're capable of doing it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have said it. So that's the very first thing I would say to someone, that you have to raise the expectations that you have for your own life.
So I'll just tell you right now that to all of you who are listening and watching right now, um, you are capable. You do deserve better. You are an amazing, amazing person. I mean, you are to me living proof that God exists. And so, all the things all the things that Nate just said that were given to him, we're giving to you right now. And that's part of what we're doing is giving you that encouragement. So, yeah, so thank you for that, Nate.
No worries. And so the second thing I would say is that I remind this of my son, for example, whenever he wanted to do something that he's never done before, the very first thing that he would do, that we're all likely to do, is to think we can't do it. We think it's too
Right.
big of a thing to do. I can't do that. And what I ask him to do, John, as I would give him this exercise, I would find people who would overcome great challenges that we all knew, who done great things, and then I would have him read and study those people, because I wanted him to see that the very people that you think so highly of many times have had more disadvantages than you. And if they could overcome them, then what could possibly be different about you?
That is amazing. That is amazing. It's that I love that. I love that because we all have a tendency to look at people and go, "Oh, wow, look at them. Look at how they're living. Look at their lifestyle. Look at how they get to travel all the time." I'm telling you, folks, there is not a single exception to this next statement. And this next statement is everybody's got something that's messed up in their life.
That is true.
Right? Right?
Exactly.
And
Absolutely.
even the most amazing people that you see out there, everybody's got a story. So
Absolutely.
so that's amazing. That is amazing
And the
advice.
converse is true, which is to keep us encouraged that all of us have some gift or some talent that is worthy of moving our life forward too.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. That's
Yep.
wonderful. That's wonderful. And go ahead.
I was just saying, to the third thing I would add was that along with that is that you have to have a dream big enough to get you out of bed. And the dream has to be about something bigger than you. And so let me say that. Like, can I unpack that real quick?
Yes. Yes, please do.
So we're at the New Year's, and people made resolutions. But last Friday was New Year's quit day, right? Because the second Friday of the new year is the day that most people quit the New Year's resolution that they had.
I've never heard that.
Yeah,
I've never
yeah.
heard that. Yeah.
And the
Okay.
reason that I like, it's just me, the reason I believe that we quit our New Year's resolutions, because our resolutions are only about ourselves, and we quit on ourselves all the time. What we are likely not to do is quit on people that we love and adore who are counting on us. If you say you're going to lose weight
Whoa.
and it's just for you, you're probably not going to lose weight. If you say you're going to quit smoking and it's just for you, you're probably not going to quit smoking. But if your mom was in the hospital and she needed to lose weight, you would be there every day holding her hand, trying to find a way to help her to be, or if someone had a substance abuse, you would be there every step of the way. But when it's you, you quit on you all the time. So I think you have to make it much bigger than you in order not
That
to quit.
that's just a mind blower, Nate. That's just right. I mean, and that's what you that's exactly what you mean by having goals that get you out of bed
Right.
and something that's bigger than yourself.
Yeah, you call them big, would you call them hags? Big
Big,
hags
hairy,
and
audacious
audacious
goals. Yeah,
goals. Yeah.
BHAGs.
Yeah. You have to have that. You have to have that in order. You tell my story, I'm an undergrad, I want to quit. My first
Yeah.
semester, I want to quit. I don't know how to study, John. I'm a C student from Gary, Indiana, with no wealth. My mother and them dropped me off at Butler University. I see cars I've never seen before. Sometimes it looks like a luxury car lot. I'm interacting with kids that I've never seen before. They've never seen me. Most of the kids are white. I'm black. I'm from a city that's 97% black. I am now in an environment that feels completely foreign to me. I do not think I could succeed. But I do remember this, that my mother and them sent me to school, and people at home are expecting me to finish. And other kids are expecting me when I come home to tell them how I'm succeeding. And their parents are expecting me to do that. So I can't quit because it's no longer about me. It's about
It's not
something bigger
about
than me.
you. That is amazing. That is amazing. So that said, let's the great segue into our next topic, right? About achieving goals. And you created a thing called a backwards design process. Talk about that and talk about what it is and how you came up with it.
Sure. So I first recognized it from education. That education, the educators have this thing. I want to say it was first created at Vanderbilt. The two people who invented it, I don't know their names, so I apologize. But I believe it started at Vanderbilt. It was this idea that that's the way we should create lesson plans. You create a lesson plan based upon what you hope to happen in the end. When
Hmm.
my son ran track, we did the same thing. It's called periodization. So you say, hey, you want to run in the Olympics, and you're a year out. So every meet is about getting a little bit fast, a little bit better to get you towards that Olympic qualifying time, to then make sure that you're the best, you run the fastest at the Olympics. But so I've looked at life that way for an unborn child. What if we were thinking about the end result? And if the end result in our case initially was, can we prepare a child to meet the academic qualifications of Harvard? Okay, what do we need to do today? And
And
what
you're
do we
thinking
need
about this, you're thinking about this before your son is born.
before my child was born? Correct. Because my life was not what I wanted it to be. And I didn't necessarily know how to fix my own life, but I knew enough about this child I was about to have that I didn't want the child to have the same trials and tribulations and obstacles that I had. I know he was going to have, or she were going to have, some trials and tribulations and
Of
obstacles. But I
course.
feel like as a
Yeah.
parent, if you and I are in the service and we were assigned the responsibility of moving minefields or locating minefields, and you and I both show up and we're in wheelchairs and everybody calls us stubby, like the objective is that we don't want anybody else to go in the same places that we went and
Absolutely.
blew ourselves up.
Absolutely.
So I knew that I wanted to at least do that. I wanted to position the child so that they could achieve without having some of the same minefields and pitfalls that I had.
Yeah. 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 So what is that process all about?
So it's about looking to where you want to go and designing the process to get there. Today is much like a GPS. You and I, we've talked about this. You come from the Seattle area, I come from the Indianapolis area. You and I decide we want to meet in New York. Our routes are going to be different, but if we were driving, we could look at the GPS, put the location where we want to end up, and the GPS would tell us every turn to make, every highway to take. It would tell us how fast we drove, how how long the journey would be, etc. Where there might be rest stops, where there might be food, if we needed to sleep. We could find all of that based upon the route that we set through the GPS. And life is that way. So in terms of a child, the destination was Harvard. Can we meet the academic requirements for Harvard? And now I have to figure out what it will take to get that child from zero to, I wanted it to happen to 14. My wife thought I was crazy, but today I think she would say I was right. From zero to 14 to meet the requirements of Harvard.
So let me get this straight.
Yes.
So you designed this roadmap, if you will, to get to reach the goal of your son qualifying for Harvard when he was 14 years old.
My goal was for him to be able to meet the qualifications for Harvard by age 14. She said, that's crazy. She's an educator. So traditional education means you go through to your 12th grade year, you're usually 17 or 18, and then you go off to college. I was like, but that's ridiculous. We don't live in an agrarian society anymore. So summers are times to learn, not time to vacation. So what if we just went to school? We just never stopped. Why would you ever stop doing that which is good for you? Why would you ever stop learning? You, John, are still learning today. Nate is still learning today. We don't stop learning.
Absolutely.
We don't take summers off, John, to not do anything. We're always learning. So I said, well, if that's what we're doing, why would we take a summer off? And if we didn't take a summer off, and you took 12 years of school and you have 4 months of summer, that's 48 months, that's 4 years. We'd be able to reduce his educational process by 4 years if we just consistently educated him.
You distilled it down to a math problem. I
Exactly.
love that.
All things are math,
Oh my
John.
gosh. Oh my gosh. That is
Right.
amazing.
Right. If you
That
can't
is
measure, it
amazing.
doesn't count.
Yeah, yeah. The only treasure what you measure, right?
Right.
And
Absolutely.
holy cow, and I love that. I love that view and that perspective because, sometimes your goals are very short term and easy. It's getting to the grocery store. So,
Right.
okay, your goal is to get to the grocery store, right? On the other hand, what you're talking about is can also be a roadmap to your life,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
It's what I mean, you can take this destination thing and you can say, what do I want my life to be when I'm 75 years old? What do I want to look back on,
That's
right?
correct.
And it's for my New Year's episode last week. I said, folks, give yourself the gift of goals. Give yourself the gift of goals and big, hairy, audacious goals. And I really, really want to emphasize what you said is give yourself goals that are going to get you out of bed and are bigger than you.
Absolutely.
Holy cow, that's just, because you're right. You're right. When they are about you, it's easy to quit.
You
It's
quit.
easy to quit.
Yeah.
It's easy to quit on yourself, and we quit on ourselves all the time, but we don't quit on the people we love, right?
Nope. Not usually. Absolutely not. We don't usually
That
quit on
is
them. Yep.
that is so amazing. That is so amazing. And you've lived your life this way.
Yeah. More over the last 30 years. Well, what the interesting thing is, I'm sure I was living that way earlier in my life, but I don't know that I thought that I was doing it intentionally. Today,
Right. Right.
today, I absolutely do it intentionally. But
Okay,
but
so
yeah,
let's talk about that for a second.
sure.
Okay, what's the difference? I mean, you said that you were doing it, you just weren't doing it intentionally. What's the difference? I mean, when you made that shift from, you're living your life to intentionally setting goals and intentionally doing what you do today. What was
Mhm.
what happened and what's the difference?
And maybe the correct word is consciously or unconsciously, but either way, it's the
Right.
same. I didn't know that that's what I was doing. So I mentioned to you before. I met five people. I met five people. I had known them for a while. Five parents, five adults who decided to treat me as if I was their own child. They decided to love me for no reason. One at some point in time in my 10th grade year in high school, they all said something to me that struck a chord that reminded me that I could do more with my life than I was doing. So these people gave me something I didn't necessarily know what they were giving me. Right? They just said, "Hey, Nate, what do you want in your life?" And like any 15-year-old, what I mostly wanted to do is play basketball. I want to be a professional basketball player. And they're like, "Yeah, okay, like you could. I don't know if that's going to happen. You could do more." Okay, so well, what more can I do? I don't know because I don't have a process in my own home where people have achieved academic. You're telling me I can go to college. Okay, I know my parents have told me to go to college, but they haven't given me a prescription, a roadmap how to do that. Now, these people inadvertently gave me that. One person said, I said, hey, what did you do? He's a judge. What did you do with your life, Judge Kimbrough? He said, I attended. Very clear how he said, I attended Fisk University and I attended John Marshall Law School. So what he gave me, unbeknownst to me, was the beginning of backward design. He said, hey, you need to get to one school, Fisk. And if you can get to Fisk and do what I did, which is graduate, and I would assume with good enough grades, then you can apply to John Marshall and go to law school. So you can do what I did, Nate. Here's how you did it. But as a child, I don't think that I was intentionally saying, you know what, I got to figure out
Right.
how to get there. What I did figure out is that whatever classes my friends were taking that were in AP classes, I needed to figure out how to take those classes. If they were taking college prep courses, then I needed to take college prep courses if I was going to be like them and go to college. So that was right. That was not necessarily intentional. Today, if you ask me, one of the things I would say that I say to adults is I give them a Wikipedia exercise. And I say, if your life ended today, what do you want written in your Wikipedia page? Very different. Like,
Very
to your
different.
point.
I love it.
Right. But then I was like, okay, I'm just trying to get out of Gary. I'm trying to get out of Gary and be
Yeah.
more than anybody thinks I can be.
Which is a huge thing. It's huge, right? I mean, how
Right.
name something that's bigger than that.
Right.
Really, right? As a person at the age that you were at that time. And the thing that I have found when people intentionally or consciously, as you say, go from living life kind of by happenstance to
Mm-hmm.
really living life with goals set out, is that you really turbocharge your life, right? And all of a sudden you set your path. And you're not just kind of going arbitrarily, hey, let's try
Right.
this path. Hey, we
Right.
want to get to New York. Um, let's just kind of go. Let's just kind of take whatever roads we come across, right?
Absolutely.
Um, and so it really does enable you to focus. Um, one thing I just wanted to share. You talk about backwards design, and you talked about your Wikipedia page. When you and I were growing up, one of the things that people would say was, "What do you want written on your gravestone?"
Right. Correct.
Right? What do
Mm-hmm.
you want written on your gravestone? There's another exercise called the rocking chair exercise
Mm.
that says that there's going to come a point in your life where you have less life ahead of you than you have behind you. And my aunt once told me that you're going to come to a point in life when all you have to look forward to are the memories that you have.
Mm.
So this rocking chair exercise is envisioning yourself towards the end of your life in a rocking chair, thinking back on your life. What do you want to think back on? You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
my aunt said, make sure you live a good life so that you have really great memories to look back on.
Yeah. No, I think
And
that's no, it's a great exercise.
yeah, yeah. And so I love everything that you said because everything is just so impactful. And folks, you can do this now. You
Right.
can do this now, right? You don't have to go buy books. You don't have anyway, you can
John,
do this.
as a father, and I actually have done this with my wife as well. I've said,
Hmm.
"Can you write my obituary?"
Yeah.
Right, because the two people who I've lived with and lived with the longest, like I've been with her longer than it shared a house with her than I ever shared a house with either of my parents, and same with my son. But I'm like, you're probably going to write my obituary, and I'm curious who you think that I am, because if you tell me that I'm somebody that I'm not, then I've got work to do. Like I know who I want to be. I know who I want to be when I'm no more. I don't think we think about that. And you and I have both been to funerals where we heard people speak about somebody. You're like, that's not who that person
What are you
was.
talking
What are they talking
about?
about? Right? You don't know that person. Or someone eulogize someone. You like, what are they talking about? So I'm like, okay, the only way to be who I want to be when I'm no more is to be who I want to be today.
That is, I never thought about that. So you had your wife write your obituary based on who you are today. If you were to die today,
Today, right?
right? Write my obituary. And then I'm going to have my wife do that too. I'm going to have my kids do it. If I
Yeah.
were to die today, write my
Right.
obituary.
Who would you say it was? Right.
You
And if
know?
you don't like it, if you don't like it, you don't like it, you you know you got some improvement to do. And if you like
And
it, keep it up.
but you know what? If you don't like it, what an opportunity.
Absolutely. Right.
Right? What an opportunity. Because what I was just thinking about is I'm just going down the road thinking everything's great, right?
Right. Might want to check in.
And yeah, that's a you might want to check in.
But
You
John,
might want to check in.
isn't that something like with you? I didn't mean to cut you off. You and I work. If we work somewhere, or we have a business and we have clients, we check in with those people to see if they like. If you go stay in a hotel, the hotel immediately sends you a survey. If you go to a restaurant, they want to hit the barcode. But in life, the people that we say we adore and we love the most, rarely do we ever ask them to survey us. We just assume that we are great to them.
I'm stunned.
Right.
You're right. You're absolutely
Right.
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 What you guys, um, if you want to know if you want to know if you're on the right track, do this.
Right.
Do this. And do it with people you care about, really. And if nothing else, it'll bring you closer. It might temporarily piss you off.
It might, right, right,
But
right.
it's all about love. It's all about love. And I love that. All right. So we talked about getting ahead. We talked about achieving goals. Let's talk now about living with joy on purpose. And we might have just talked about that. But if you have if what are your thoughts on living with joy on purpose?
So the last two words, joy on purpose, or that's three words, but joy and purpose are so joy. We typically know what joy is. So if I could, here's my um, um, not so creative version of joy. So there's a scene in Coming to America. If you've ever seen
Okay,
it,
that's with
the
Eddie
rich
Murphy.
Eddie
Is
Murphy.
that the Eddie Murphy?
That's
Okay.
Eddie Murphy.
Yeah,
And
long
Eddie
time ago.
Murphy
Yeah.
is playing Akeem, and he's a guy from Africa who is first time in America looking for his bride. And they go to this thing called the Miss Black Awareness pageant. And while they're there, there's a pastor, and he's getting everybody excited. And the whole audience breaks out, and they say, "Joy!" And Eddie Murphy's character looks around because he doesn't understand what all of this joy thing is. And they say it again, joy. And he finally hits him and he says, "I'm very happy to be here." And so that's what I think about joy. Joy is a thing you do on purpose. And when you find joy, you're going to be very happy to be wherever you are. So each day, to me, joy is something you have to pursue. Joy doesn't just appear. You may not understand what is joyful, but you have to decide that you're going to live each day with joy on purpose. It's a choice. I choose to be joyful when I talk to John. It's my choice. I could choose to be angry. I could choose to be unhappy, but I choose joy. I have the like that's what the creator gave me. We all have free will. My free will is that I choose joy and I choose to do it on purpose.
You know, joy is a choice. Anger is a choice. And it's all and it's yours to choose,
And
right?
it's yours to choose. That
It's
is
yours
correct.
to choose.
Right.
Folks have often heard me say that the product of your life today is the product of the decisions and choices that you've made. And some people say, well, I couldn't choose my parents. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's say it this way. The product of your life in the future is going to be based on the decisions and choices you make today. And a lot of people, when they hear that, they go, choices, decisions, big, big decisions. No, it's waking up and choosing how you want to live your life.
Mm-hmm.
That's your choice. I
Right.
love how you said that. I love it. Nate, you have a way of taking things and just really distilling them down to simple, digestible, go do it now terms.
I, I,
And
I
I love
appreciate
that about you.
I appreciate it. I mean, I'm a product of too much television, too much music and entertainment. But that's kind of how my mind works. As you were just saying it, I was thinking about, I think the Santa Claus is coming to town, and thinking about the snow monster who says, put one foot in front of the other. And I think that that's
There's
like,
a song, right?
right.
Right.
Inch by inch, it's a cinch, right? I think that
That's right.
that is the
That's right.
case with all things. I can be joyful today, but I have to take one step of joy, right, each time. I can't expect this,
Right. Right.
monumentous form of joy. I have to take a step. I have to
And
take a step.
each step gets you closer to a habit,
Correct.
right? Each
Mm-hmm.
step eventually, I don't want to sound Pollyannish or anything, but I've been, talk about doing things unconsciously, right? I've kind of been doing that. I've been doing that in terms of every day. I wake up and I'm thankful for waking up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because someday we're not gonna.
That's true.
So
Right.
the
Right.
day's
Right.
gonna come when, and anyway, joy is a choice.
It's a
Joy
choice.
is a choice,
And you do
and
it
I
on
love that.
purpose. And you
And
do
you
it on
do it
purpose.
on
So
purpose.
that means when you don't want to do it, you still got to do it. If I don't feel good, and John says, "Hey, can we talk?" And I said that I live with joy on purpose, what I cannot do is tell John, I cannot speak with you without joy, because joy has to be purposeful. Like,
Yeah.
if my last meeting was with anyone on the planet, John, if you're the last person I talk to, like, I'm mindful of that. That John may be the last person who speaks to me, and whatever I don't want John to say is that, man, he was a phony. He was
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
absolutely miserable. Nope. I want to be consistent in that regard.
Yep. Yep. And folks, I talk about legacy all the time. I talk about legacy all the time. And for me, I want to be remembered as someone who, I think we all share a common purpose. And we talked about this a little bit, but I think we all share a common purpose, and that is to make this world better than the day we landed on it.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's if we're all doing that and we're all working towards that and we're all working towards that thing that's bigger than us, right? Um, life becomes different. Life becomes different.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time talking about generational wealth, but at the same time, we'll tell people that your health is your wealth, and yet we almost do nothing to create generational mental, emotional, or spiritual health. We're so busy trying to acquire things that rust and moths destroy than we are about acquiring our mental, emotional, and spiritual health that we can then leave on to other people, because that'll last longer than other stuff. The most successful people in the world, John, we don't historically are not people we talk about because they had great wealth.
We don't
We mostly
celebrate.
talk
That's
about
right.
people, right? We celebrate them. We just celebrated a former president. I don't know how much Jimmy Carter was worth. Whatever you think about him, certainly what he did at the last part of his life with Habitat for Humanity and winning the Nobel Prize, et cetera, speak to his health, his emotional, his mental, his spiritual health. I don't know what his generational wealth is. I don't know what he transferred to anybody, but I know what he passed on to us those other ways.
You know, okay. And there you go. Yeah, I mean, you're right. You're right. When we talk about generational wealth, um, it's all about money.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about money. But there's so much more to it. You got the spiritual aspect of it. You got the emotional aspect of it. You got the relationship aspect of it. It's
Right.
it's you have the what did you do to make the world better aspect of it. And you pass that stuff down. And that's what you're leaving behind. You're leaving behind a better world for the people you love and for the world at large. And and again, I don't I'm sorry if I sound all Pollyannish and everything, but I'll tell you, it's huge. The things that we talk about in terms of focusing on things that are bigger than you.
Mm-hmm.
When you do that, you are focusing on you and
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. 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 It's not selfish. It's not selfless. It's actually selfish. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
if you think you have something that you can give to the world, and that's your appointed destiny, well, then in some ways you have to be selfish about making sure you show up for your appointment.
There you go. There you go. You know, folks, we talked about a lot of things on this, and I am so happy and so grateful, Nate, that that you've launched our Finding Better podcast in 2025. And you know, folks, you can share this, please, and come back to it. Come back to it once a month, and just this is one of those podcasts where you want to come back and just go, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, and this could be one of those sessions that keeps you on your path. If you agree with some of the things Nate and I talked about today.
Right.
Um, Holy cow. And we did talk about a lot. Nate, do you have anything else you want to add?
Just that, John, I did it last year, so I have to find it. But if your listeners, viewers are interested, I have a 5-day challenge that they could use to help them jumpstart what we just talked about.
Okay. And how do they get how do they get to that?
Send me an email at info@nathanielaturner.com. It's
Info at
nathanielaturner.com.
nathanielaturner.com.
I think we
You
took
know,
it off the website, but I'll try to put it back on there, and then they could just go
okay.
directly to the website.
Okay. The other thing is that I'd like to get it from you
Okay.
because at the end of this month, I'm going to create a resource center, and
Okay.
I'd like that to be the first thing people come across,
I'll
and
send it
it's
to you.
it's going to be a resource center at johnsuzuki.com.
Okay.
So folks, I just made a promise and a commitment to you. Um, I've been saying I'm going to do this for a long time. Now I've given myself a deadline. You got two ways to get what Nate was just talking about with this 5 steps, and you'll be able to get it on my website.
John, you know what we've just become? You
What's
ready for
that?
this? We become RAPs. We become reciprocal accountability partners. I'm going to send it to you. You're holding me accountable to send it to you, and then you're going to share it with other people.
Ooh. Okay.
Yep.
I'm glad that didn't relate to RIP. Uh,
No, no, no.
it's
We're going to be RAPs before we're RIP. How about
awesome. Awesome. Okay. All right. All right. Well, folks, listen, thank you for joining us, Nate. Amazing. Amazing. I learned so much from you. I think there were 3 times that I went, with my you blowing my mind. And I'd love to have you back because
Anytime.
I'd love folks to learn about what you did and learn the process that you went through in getting your son qualified for Harvard by the time he was 14. And I think there's a lot of people who can learn a lot from that as well. So with that, Nate, Happy New Year. Thank you
Same to
again
you.
for joining me. I love you, brother.
I love you, but
And
appreciate
I
you.
love what you're doing. I love what you're doing. To all of you out there, I love you. God bless you. Thank you for joining us. We're at the beginning of an amazing, amazing year. Please share this, and we'll see you next time on Finding Better. Okay? Thanks for joining us. Bye.